Some years ago, my brother from Minnesota had sent me a video message on Marco Polo, and he'd asked me to describe myself using just one word. Now, found this very difficult to do. I don't think I ever responded to him. I still haven't to this day, and if he asked me again, I still don't know if I'd be able to. Growing up, my parents taught us to not talk about ourselves. So I just didn't. I took it too far, really. I think they just meant don't dominate a conversation with I, right? Learn to ask other people about themselves. This is how you leave an impression on others and get people to like you and stay humble at the same time, right? But I just would never volunteer information about me. So when he asked me this question, I just didn't know what to say. I still don't know what to say. He told me that the one word he'd use to describe himself is as mindful. Now, I know what mindful means. You probably do too. But it does take on different colors and hues depending on who's using it and how they're using it, what they're thinking at the time, right? See, this is the problem with things like this, is that once you say something, it's out there, right? It's out there. And then what you feel compelled to do is to give an explanation as to why you feel this way about yourself and what you really mean. You don't want anybody to misunderstand, right? Well, while I can't describe myself with one word, I will tell you that the people who know me personally in my life, they have been able to describe me with one word more often than any other word. And that is as overthinker. People say more often than anything else, I'm an overthinker. Now, mind you, they don't use this in a very positive connotation. I usually hear this after I have not said something that people want to hear. I have not acted soon enough on something. When they think I'm thinking too deeply, which I do think too deeply, and perhaps I am an overthinker. But I do read between the lines. I get the temperature in the room. I try to see what's going on. I read the road ahead. I'm always thinking about the long game and how something will affect me. So yes, I probably am an overthinker. I just don't think people think enough. And I'm really glad that not everyone is like me. Because you see, others can probably pull the trigger on something a lot faster than I can. And probably because they're more relaxed, they'll hit their target more often. And even at my age, I'm still learning to wing it, which is not an easy task for me. It's I like to be sure of myself, but in reality, more often than not, I'm not. I'm not very sure of myself. That doesn't mean I lack confidence, but it also doesn't mean that I have it in abundance either. And just putting that out there into the ether now, I guess could affect my long game. I don't think it really will. I don't think people really care about what I say too much, and that's probably a good thing. But I think that it's important to consider every angle, every option, every interpretation of things. Because I don't like to be gaslit. I don't like to be tricked. And maybe this is an indication that maybe growing up, I felt like I was always being gaslit before I even knew what the word meant. Perhaps I was always being manipulated to some degree, right? It's raining right now, so you can probably hear it on the roof of my car. But yeah, maybe that's an indication that that's how I grew up. But I wouldn't say that it's something I should throw away and stop doing. It's a part of the fabric of who I am at this point. But I don't think that just because someone says something is necessarily true in that moment. See, sometimes people will define you in a certain way. They'll say it to your face, and they'll use it as some kind of a hammer next time they need to nail you for something. All right? And you have to remember that. And we can all change things about ourselves. You're not stuck with a certain personality type. You're not stuck with default reactions to things. You can change a lot about yourself. You can become a totally different kind of person. However, you don't need to do that necessarily in everything. Just certain things, right? Well, this is one of those things that I don't know that I'll ever stop doing. I do want to relax a little bit and wing it. I do want to, you know, take guesses at things and just say things out loud and act without thinking, lower my inhibitions. You know, I want to do stuff like that. But, you know, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, maybe to some degree you can. My point here is that there are people in your life who will find a way of defining you, but it doesn't have to be necessarily who you are through and through. And this is one of the reasons why I never liked playing those kinds of games, is because once you say something out loud in front of people and it becomes a consensus, then it becomes who you are. And I don't play that. You know, I just don't want to be remembered in certain ways. I don't want to remember anybody else in that way. I don't want to remember anybody else by one word. You know, I like discovering the complexities of an individual and uncovering new things about them I didn't know before. And there always is. We never know other people as completely as we think we do. In fact, we never even know ourselves as completely as we'd like to think we do. You know, as I get older, I realize that there's things about me I don't like at all, and then there are other things I go, wow, you know, that's not too bad. I'm glad I'm like that. I'm glad I have these traits. It's really worked out for me. You know, you can see how the groundwork was laid years ago, looking back, and how it will serve you going forward. So don't let the consensus of others pull you down too much, because I will tell you this: when people say that I'm an overthinker, I tend to overthink that too much. It weighs on me, and I start thinking, well, first of all, I kick back and no, I'm not. But then I start thinking, well, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right about some of this, at least, and which might be an indication that they might be right. I don't know, but you don't want things like that to consume you. Here's the thing, okay? It's important to understand that when people say things to you about you, that is simply just data. You can detach yourself from it emotionally and go, this is just what they're saying. This is just what they feel. This is just how they interpret things. It doesn't have to be personal. Even if they want it to be personal, even if that's how they mean it, it doesn't have to be anything more than just data. Okay, that's how you treat it. You just file it away and go, without any kind of emotion, this person thinks this. That's it. This is how this person feels about me. That's it. Doesn't mean it's fact. Doesn't mean everybody else feels that way. But you can think about it if you want to. You can consider a lot of things. You can probably do what I do, is overthink it, but just try not to do it too much. And, you know, if you have to, maybe a good exercise for all of us is to come up with a word, one word in which we could describe ourselves. I will tell you this, upon reading a book called Man Against Himself, all about man's self-destructive nature, is that we say all sorts of things about ourselves that are not good all the time. We reinforce a negative visualization about us. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Start thinking of both positive and negative. Not just positive, but both. Be honest with yourself. Change what you can and move on from there. And be thankful for the good things that you can find good about yourself. And let me tell you something. You better find things about yourself that other people may never see. Appreciate traits that you know that you possess, even if no one else ever sees them. You may be your own best personal support. All right? All right, guys, I hope that's helped. Really had no idea where any of that was going. I just, kind of thought about it a little bit, sussed it out, and thought, this might be helpful. And I hope it's helpful to you. If you think it might be helpful to somebody else, pass it on. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. In the meantime, be wise.